Last week, while I was studying for finals, a thought popped into my head. I want to build a desk. Now, I've never done any woodworking or architectural design, anything. But inspiration struck and I decided to design and build a desk. There were a few reasons I wanted to build a desk rather than buying one. First, I wanted my desk to be easy to take apart and move around. Having the desk be made of easily attachable pieces was critical. Secondly, I wanted my desk to be able to switch between sitting and standing. Thirdly, I wanted the color and look of the desk to be somewhat distinct so it would look good in my YouTube videos. On day 1, more like day 0, design day, I hopped into Blender and put together a design. I came up with this. We have 2 cabinets with 3 drawers each. These will be spaced apart to fit the 2 by 6 foot desktop on top. The tops of the cabinets will have a peg on each corner and the bottom of the desktop will have holes for the pegs to fit into. I will also build 2 cubby boxes to go on top of the cabinets. These will also have pegs for the desktop to fit into to put the desk into standing mode. I also want a raised section of the desk for my main monitor. I thought it would look cool to paint it mostly black with the drawers being blue and red to resemble a Nintendo Switch. I also thought it would be a good idea to give the desktop a wood look by applying vinyl sheet flooring. This not only completes the look, but also serves the function of waterproofing the surface of the desktop so I don't have to worry about putting hot coffee mugs right on the wood. The final design touches were a slide out to go under the desktop, a back panel to cover the cables, and various cable management holes. With this design in mind, I put together a parts list and took a trip to the hardware store. I started out by cutting the plywood sheets into the pieces I needed for the desk. The first day of working on the desk was entirely dedicated to cutting. I'm working on drawing out the rest of the lines for the cuts, and it's starting to sunset, and I'm hoping to get these cuts done by the end of the day so that tomorrow I can assemble everything. You can't really see the lines, but they're there. Pile. Hopefully I get it done. By the end of the day, we had a giant pile of pieces of wood. Day 2, we worked on putting the desktop together by securing 3-inch deep planks under the edges of the desktop. I had the idea to drill the peg holes before securing the planks to the desktop so I could drill all the way through and have consistent peg holes. We secured the planks using wood glue and screws. For a lot of this project, it probably would have been a good idea to use clamps, but I didn't have any, and I figured the screws and staples would hold everything together tight enough. We moved on to making the tops of the cabinets so we could see how the pegs would fit. I eyeballed and cut approximately 3/4 inch tall pegs from the dowel rod. We drilled small holes into the tops of the cabinets and then glued and screwed the pegs in place. We had some difficulty getting the pegs to fit into the holes on one side, so we spent the next little while trying to sand the peg holes to be slightly bigger. Eventually, I had the brilliant idea to use a Dremel to make these bigger, but for now, we sanded by hand. For a while. I spent day 3 putting together the cabinets and drawers. The first step of that process was to install the drawer slides on the insides of the cabinets. I figured it would be easier to install them before assembling the cabinets. The staple gun was the key to making this desk stable. I initially planned on using glue and screws, but the staples ended up being way easier, quicker, and stronger. Once the cabinets were made, it was time to build the drawers. But I came to the realization that I didn't account for the extra distance caused by the butt joints, and my drawers were not going to fit into the cabinets the way they were now. Oh, shoot. So it was back to the table saw to bring everything down to size. Once that was done, I could assemble a drawer, attach the slider rails to the bottom, and test it out. Here is the pile of my failed measurements. This is the moment of truth. Oh no. So I just made the unfortunate discovery that this is too wide
for these drawers, but then I had the idea that using the pile of failures over there, I can take pieces to attach to the drawers to extend out the rails just by a ½ inch, and I think that that is going to solve the problem. So that's what I'm going to try. Okay, just finished that test, and it was too big the second time. So it's like a ½ inch or so too wide for the drawers. I'm going to figure this out.
I ended up finding a scrap piece of wood in my dad's garage, which was about a ½ inch thick, and attaching that to the outer bottom edge of the drawer completely solved the problem.
A crystal on each other before it doesn't want to work.
Little bit too wide.
Do you think it might work in the bottom one? Maybe try switching this to.
Yeah, that pretty much fits.
Yay!
Yay!
For some reason, I only had to do that for the drawers on the left. I guess my measurements were a bit off. Anyway, now it was time to build the rest of the drawers. After the rest of the drawers were built, I put together the raised section of the desk, cut out some cable management holes, and then put on the first coat of paint. This is what it looked like at this point. I really liked how it was coming together. Unfortunately, near the end of the project, I wasn't able to record too much, so bear with me here. I built the cubby extensions for standing mode and attached rails to both the cabinets and the cubbies for the under the desk slide out to go in. At this point, I would like to mention that between each of these steps, there was a lot of sanding happening off camera to make the edges smooth. To make the back panel to cover the cables, I put together these U-shaped slots out of my extra pieces of wood for the panel to slide into. At first, I sloppily made these with one layer of plywood, but it was almost impossible to get the panels to stay in place. So I made the vastly superior U-shaped double-layered slots, which are working very well. I laid out the desktop and rolled the vinyl flooring over it. After securing the vinyl in place with a kettlebell, I cut around the edges with a razor blade to make the right-sized sheet. Now it was time to apply adhesive and secure the vinyl. I had extra vinyl sheeting which I applied to the raised part of the desk as well as the bottom insides of the cubbies. After a final coat of paint, I let everything dry overnight and assembled it in the morning. All that was left was to move it into my apartment. And this is the final result. I am incredibly pleased with how it turned out. It definitely has a lot of imperfections, but seeing as this was my first woodworking project of my life, and that I designed this desk myself, I am very proud of it. I appreciate the help I had along the way, and I'm excited to see how this desk holds up for the next few years. Thank you all very much for watching this video, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye! But I came to the realization that I didn't account for the extra distance caused by the butt joints on my drawers. That sounded stupid.